Hello everyone, my name is Nolan Schwent. This is my video for the TN565 video conference for 2022. In this video, I'll be covering the basics of Amazon Web Services, also known as AWS. I'll also be showcasing you how you can build your own cloud-based lab in AWS. This video will showcase how you can load virtual machines in the cloud, how to configure a network in the cloud, how to create a root and non-root user in the cloud environment, and much more. What is the cloud? Before we can get started in AWS, we must first have a basic understanding of what the cloud is. The definition of cloud computing is the on-demand availability of computer system resources, especially data storage and computing power, without directive active management by the user. The cloud allows users to access files and applications from almost any device. Cloud servers are in data centers all over the world. By using cloud computing, users and companies do not have to manage physical servers themselves. In basic terms, the cloud is just you are paying someone else to use their computers to house your applications, files, or storage. AWS is the biggest cloud computing platform that includes a mixture of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and packaged software as a service offerings. So why have a home lab in the cloud? Every day, more and more companies are moving their IT infrastructure to a cloud environment. Companies are doing this because the cloud can be a cheaper option and an option that is easier to manage. The cloud eliminates the need to purchase additional hardware. You don't need to buy expensive servers to house your home lab anymore. With a home lab in the cloud, you're able to access your lab from almost anywhere remotely. Having a home lab in the cloud also gets you experience with commercial software that is used in the real-world environments today. The biggest reason to have home lab in the AWS cloud is you're gaining AWS skills and experience. Cloud computing is one of the most in-demand tech job skills in the market today. Having hands-on experience with AWS gains you a big step in today's job market. So the topics of this video. The first thing that we'll be covering is creating a free root user account in AWS. Next, we'll be securing a root user account with multi-factor authentication. This is a best practice when it comes to security. Then we can configuring a billing alarm. So with AWS, you are charged as on a pay-as-you-go basis. Since we will only be utilizing the free tier of AWS, it is important that we set up a billing alarm that alerts us if we are going to be charged additional charges for a certain feature that we are enabling. Next, we'll be setting up a non-root user account in our cloud environment. After that, we'll be setting up a virtual private cloud. This basically acts as our network in our cloud environment. Then finally, we'll be launching an Ac2 Instance. An Ac2 Instance is basically the same thing as a virtual machine, but is just hosted in the cloud instead of on an ESXi server per se. We will be creating a Windows Server 2019 VM and loading Active Directory onto it, and then promoting it to a domain controller. If you are new to IT, doing this will give you some experience with Windows Server administration for completely free. This also eliminates the need for big, expensive servers that are needed to host these virtual machines. Again, this goes back to cloud computing being a cheaper and more reliable option for the user. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do to get started in AWS is to create our root user account. So to create our account, we want to first open up a web browser and search for AWS free. So we'll go ahead and open up a web browser here. In the search bar, we'll search for AWS free tier. And then we're going to want to click on this first link here. So once we get to this home page, we're going to want to click create a free account. So then in root user email address, you're going to want to enter your email address that you want associated with your root account. So for this example, we'll just put in test@example.com. The AWS account name, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want the account name to be, you can put in there. For this example, we'll just verify that leave it at the default basically. And then we're going to click verify email address. Obviously that's not a real email address, but a verification code will be sent to your email address, and you're going to want to use that that verification code, to put in here to verify that is your email. So after you verify your email address, you will then be asked to enter your root user password and confirm the root user password. After that, you will probably be asked to add some contact information such as email and phone number. Then accept the user agreement and verify your phone number. Like I said, I have already created an account, so I'm just going to go ahead and sign into my existing account and show you what it looks like after you create your account. Okay, so once your account is created, you will then probably be prompted to log in. So you'll just use the root email address that you created and the root password that you created when creating the account. And then after you log in, you are greeted with the AWS Management Console. And the AWS Management Console is simply just the GUI for Amazon Web Services. This is where you'll be configuring and managing your cloud computing infrastructures, and for our case, we will be configuring our home lab from this management console. So after you log in, you have successfully created a root user account. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is to secure our account with multi-factor authentication, or MFA. So MFA is considered a best practice when it comes to security. Multi-factor authentication is when a user must provide 2 or more pieces of evidence to verify their identity and to gain access to an app or digital resource. So in our case, we're going to set MFA up basically just to gain access to our AWS root user account. Just like any operating system or application or whatever, it is important to make sure that our root user account is very secure, since this does control a lot of our privileges and it does have access to almost anything. Multi-factor authentication is a great way to add in just another layer of security to this account. So to set up multi-factor authentication, what we're going to want to do is go to Services. Then we're going to want to scroll down to Security, Identity, and Compliance. I'm going to click on that. And then from here, we're going to go to IAM. So once we're on the IAM dashboard, as you can see here, it says Add MFA for root user. So we're going to click over here where it says Add MFA. Then we're going to click Activate MFA. So there are a few options here. There's the virtual MFA device. This is basically just an authentication app on your mobile device that you download, and basically you just scan a QR code and then it gives you an authentication code that you type in to log in. Or you can do a UTF security key. What this is, basically we'll just do a quick Google search here for UTF security key. And as you can see, what this is basically just like a little USB device that you plug into your computer, and it's able to authenticate that it is actually you. So this is even better than what we're going to use, because what we're going to use is the virtual MFA device. This is just easier for our sake, but the UTF security key is a more secure option. But like I said, for this demo, we're just going to go ahead and go with the virtual MFA device. And we're going to go ahead and click Continue. And this is where we're going to, it says first install compatible app on your mobile device or computer. So if you click on here, it'll show you a list of compatible applications. So if you are iPhone, there are all these apps right here. Android, same thing. These are just the compatible authentication apps that you can use. For me, I'm just going to use the Microsoft Authenticator since I'm on iPhone. So if we go ahead and show our QR code here, basically what I'm doing now is getting out my app and going to my personal account, and we're going to do scan QR code. So what I'm going to do is scan this QR code with my phone. It's going to give me a code. I'm going to type the first code in here, which is 477409. And then for code 2, we're going to have to wait about 10 seconds. These codes expire like every 30 seconds, so we're going to go ahead and wait for this next code to come on my app here. So our next code is 801 and 987. So once you do this, you're going to go ahead and assign MFA. After that, you have successfully assigned virtual multi-factor authentication. So that is how you set up multi-factor authentication for a root user in AWS. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is set up a billing alarm in AWS. So why do we need to create a billing alarm? We need to create a billing alarm because AWS is a pay-as-you-go system. So you may be using features that you don't even know cost until you get billed for it or the end of the month. So if you're using, like I said, if you're using paid features, you can rack up charges without even realizing it. Since we are wanting to stay within the free tier of AWS in this demo per se, we want to set up a price threshold that we cannot go over. Again, this will save us from being able to rack up charges without even realizing it. Okay, so how do we set up our billing alarm? So what we're going to do first is go to Services here at the top left, and then scroll down to Management and Governance. And then from here, you're going to want to go to Cloudwatch. This is AWS's monitoring system, so we'll click on that. So within Cloudwatch, there is a lot that you can monitor. We're not going to get into a bunch of that, but what we are going to do is we are going to set a billing alarm. So you can set any kind of alarm that you would even think of in here. But what we're going to do for our sake, so we stay within our free tier, we're going to go to Billing. And then right here, we're going to click where it says Create an Alarm. So for the metric name, you can leave that as default, honestly. Currency, US dollars is fine. Period's fine. What we want to do is make sure that the threshold type is static, and then we are going to, you can do whatever you want here. I'm going to do greater than. So since I want to stay within the free tier, I'm going to say greater than $1. So this means anytime that I am using a service on AWS that costs more than $1, I'm going to get emailed and it's going to alert me right away. So from here, we're going to click Next. This is all fine. And then send notification to whatever email you want to be notified to. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my school email. So I'll do that. Then again, this is all fine for now. Then we'll go ahead and click Next. Here you can put the alarm name. For this sake, we'll do billing alarm. And then for the alarm description, we'll put whatever you want. I'm just going to put feature is greater than $1. So again, alarm name, put whatever you like, description, whatever you like. This is fine for me. Then we'll go ahead and click Next. And this is our preview of our alarm. So our threshold is $1. Conditions all look good. Actions, this all looks good for me. And we'll just go ahead and click create alarm. And there you have it. We have created a billing alarm. So anytime that we're exceeding our threshold amount, we will get an email that alerts us. So this is great if you just want to use AWS for the free tier and you don't want to spend any money. I highly recommend doing this so you don't accidentally, rack up a big charge that you had no idea that you're going to be charged for. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is create a non-root user account. So this is obviously a best practice in any system, but because you don't want your root user running around and just completing everyday tasks that you don't even be signed in as the root user, basically. Because the root account has all of the permissions and it can do anything within your account. By creating a non-root user account, you are able to limit the privileges of the user. Same thing basically as a Windows administration type of ordeal in any kind of Windows system. You obviously don't want that administrator or root account to be used unless it needs to be. So how do we create a non-root user account in AWS? So what we're going to want to do is start at the AWS Management Console and then click on Services and then go down to Security, Identity, and Compliance. Then you're going to click on IAM. From here, you're going to go to Users and then Add a User. So here is the username. For our sake, we'll just go with test user, and then we'll go to password. We'll click on Password AWS Management Console Access. So here you can create a custom password or auto-generate a password. For here, I'll just go ahead and click on auto-generate a password, and then require password reset. So if you're going to auto-generate a password, obviously you're going to want to make sure this is checked. If you're going to want to do a custom password, maybe some sort of namespace that you're going to use where everyone's password is very similar, then I would recommend unchecking this. But I'm going to do auto-generate, and I'm going to do require password reset. So then next, we're going to click on permissions, next permissions, and then add user to group. So we're going to go ahead and create a group. And here are basically all your permissions that you can do. There's a ton of them. You can do basically anything, any permissions, add, scroll in here, do whatever you would like. For our sake though, I'm just going to go ahead and do administrative access just to make it easy. And then we're going to go ahead and create a group. Obviously, we have to create a group name. We'll do admins as a group name. So if you had multiple, say, system administrators, you could just add them to the admins group and just give them administrator access. So we're going to go ahead and create a group. And then our group is created, and they're going to be added into the admins group. Go ahead and click next. So tags is optional. If you want to go ahead and create a tag where it is associated with a certain account or group, you can go ahead and do this here. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and click next. And this is our review. This is our username. So test user, access, management console with password, auto-generate the password. This all looks good. The group is in the admins group like we did just a little bit ago. We'll go ahead and create the user. So then we just create our user, it's our test user, and it's in the admins group. So since we did auto-generate that password, This is where you would want to go ahead and send the email address to that user. From there, they would log in with the temporary password, and they would be prompted to create their own new password. We can go ahead and close this. So here's our test user. It is in the admins group, and that is how you create a non-root user in AWS. So the next thing that we're going to do is create a VPC. So what is a VPC? A VPC stands for a virtual private cloud, which refers to your virtual network for your AWS account. Your AWS VPC is logically secluded from other Amazon VPCs. Amazon VPC enables you to build a virtual network in the AWS cloud. No VPNs, hardware, or physical data centers are required. You can define your own network space and control how your network and VM resources inside your network are exposed to the internet. So how do we configure a VPC? When configuring your VPC, you want to ask yourself who your users are, what systems are accessing your resources, and where they are accessing these resources from. So if there's a need for a publicly accessible resource, per se, you can configure a public subnet. That is shown right here. This is your public subnet inside your VPC, and then the public subnet will get internet access through your internet gateway. So here's your gateway, basically the same thing as your router, and that would be able to route traffic from inside your public subnet out to the internet. So then if there's a need for a private subnet where some resources may need to be isolated for the internet, you can create a private subnet also in your VPC. So here would be your private subnet inside your VPC. Then you can have access from the private and public subnet by the internet routing in your VPC. So this connection right here would be routable between your private and public. And then you can have you can also have ACLs in between your public and private subnet. So if you wanted to limit the flow of some traffic from the public subnet to the private subnet, you could be able to do that by just implementing an ACL between the two. So how do we create our VPC inside our AWS account? So what we're going to want to do is go back to our management web console, and then we're going to click on services, and then scroll down to where it says networking and content delivery, and then you want to click on VPC. And from here, you're going to want to click on Launch Vpc Wizard. And this is where we can kind of create our VPC how we'd like to suit our needs. So for this first option, we're going to want to select Vpc Subnets, etc. Or you can then, here's where you can name your VPC. I'll just name it My VPC. And then here's where you can adjust your subnet and basically your CIDR block. So if you don't need 65,000 IP addresses, you can knock this down to however many you would like. I'm just going to keep it as the default for right now. And then if you like to enable IPv6, you can do that here. And then here's your availability zones. So if you would need 2 public subnets and 2 private subnets, there would be a public and a private in each availability zone. So if you only want 1 public and 1 private, you can click 1. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to select 1 availability zone. That gives us the need for 1 public subnet and 1 private subnet. The NAT gateway, we can leave that as none, and then endpoint, that's fine as well. And then enable DNS resolution, just leave that checked as well. So then we're going to choose Create VPC. And then after this is done, we'll do View VPC. And that is our VPC created. Okay, so after we create our VPC, we're going to want to make sure that our internet gateway is attached. So we're going to click on Internet Gateway on the left here. And then here is the My VPC Internet Gateway. that was created for us when we created our VPC. As you can see, it is attached, so that is what we want. If it wasn't attached for some reason, you can go ahead and just select it, and then go up here where it says Actions, and then you can attach it to your VPC. Like I said earlier, you do need an internet gateway if you want to be able to talk out to the internet. This is where your public subnet will go to get internet access. So what we need to do next is create a new route table. So we're going to go over here where it says Route Tables on the left. And then from here in the top right, we're going to click Create Route Table. So we'll just name this We'll name it My Route Table, and then we're going to want to select our VPC that we just created where it says My VPC in parentheses. For the tags, we can just leave this as default. We don't really need those. And then we'll do Create Route Table. So right now, the only routes that we have is just our local subnet right here. So anything that is bound for the subnet is local. And then what we're going to do is click Edit Routes. Then we're going to click Add Route. And then we're going to select the one that is all zeros. And the target is going to be our internet gateway. And then we're just going to click on our gateway that was created for us when we created our VPC. And then we're going to click Save Changes. So now we just have added a route that is basically anything that is not destined for our local subnet will be going out our internet gateway. So the next thing that we're going to do is create an Ac2 instance. This is basically just launching a virtual machine in your cloud environment. The virtual machine that we're going to be loading is a Windows 2019 server, and then we're going to go ahead and install Active Directory domain services onto that VM that we created. So to do this, what we're going to want to do is start here at our AWS Management Console. Then we're going to go to Services, and then Compute, and then click on EC2. So from here, we're going to go ahead and click this arrow, and then we're going to do Launch Instances. Here we can go ahead and we can name this virtual machine. I'll just go ahead and name it Windows Server. So I'm going to go ahead and name it Windows Server. Then here, this is where you can click your select your operating system. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and load Windows. From here, this is where you can select the type of virtual machine that you want to run. There are a lot of free tier eligible ones. Some are a lot bigger though. Some have more CPU and RAM. The one I'm going to go ahead and do is just the Microsoft Windows 2019 base. Then here's the instant type. Again, this is where you can select the memory or how many CPUs you would like. Obviously, the more CPUs and memory is going to cost you. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the free tier eligible one. Then the key pair login. This is what you're going to need to log in. You're going to need this key pair. This is basically how you log in is a private public key pair. So if you don't have a key pair, I've already created a couple of them. You can go ahead and just select create new key pair, and then you can name that whatever you'd like. So I'm just going to go ahead and select my lab key pair here. And then for network settings, this is all good. We are going to be logging using RDP. Right now it's allow RDP traffic from anywhere. Obviously, if this is a real world environment, you probably want to select my IP, but for this example, we'll just go ahead and use anywhere. Storage is fine. You can leave that as default. And this all looks good. So then you're going to go ahead and click Launch Instance. So then after it loads, you're going to go ahead and click on this instance right here. Okay, so here's our Windows Server VM. It's going to take a minute for this thing to load, so you might have to wait about 2 or 3 minutes for this to load, and then we'll go ahead and launch this virtual machine. Okay, so now that our virtual machine is up and running, to connect to it, we're going to go ahead and select it, go up here to Actions, and then click Connect. Like I said, we are going to use RDP to connect to this VM, so go ahead and select RDP Client. And then from here, you're going to download the remote desktop file. Then you can go ahead and open that. Click Connect. And then already has the username as an administrator. Then you're going to need the password. To get the password, you're going to click over here where it says Get Password. And then again, you're going to need that key pair that you created earlier in order to decrypt the password. So I'm going to go ahead and browse key pairs. Mine is in my downloads. And I used my lab one. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then decrypt password. So that decrypts the password. And you're going to go ahead and just copy. You can click these little squares right here, copy the password. Then you want to go back to your remote desktop connection and go ahead and paste the password in here. Then you're going to go ahead and click OK. And then click Yes. And now we are connecting to our Windows Server VM that we created in our cloud environment. And as you can see, we're now inside our Windows Server 2019 VM that we created in the cloud. That's what makes the cloud so great, is I was able to do that in like 3 minutes. It's spin up a Windows Server 2019 just like that. So next, what we're going to go ahead and do, since we're already here, we're going to go ahead and install Active Directory domain services on this virtual. Alright, the first thing that we're going to want to do is change the name of this computer. Right now, in the top right corner, you can see where it's EC2, Amazon, and a bunch of random letters. We want to be able to identify this machine since it is going to be our domain controller. So we're going to go ahead down here and we're going to search for this PC. Then we're going to go ahead and right click and click on Properties. From here, where it says Computer Name, Domain, and Workgroup Settings, click Change Settings, and then Change again. And here's where we can give it a unique computer name. For this example, we'll just name it Domain Controller, DC for short, and then click on OK. Then it's going to ask us to restart our computer, so we'll click OK. Close, and then restart now. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is promote this server to be our domain controller. So we're going to go click Add Roles and Features right here. And then click on Next. Next again. That's fine. Click on Next. Then here we're going to click on Active Directory Domain Services. And click Add Features. This is fine. And then we're going to go ahead and click Install. Okay, so after this is done installing, we're going to click right here where it says Promote the server to Domain Controller. Here we're going to add a new forest. You can name this whatever you'd like, but for this demo, I'll just do lab.local. Then we're going to go ahead and click Next. This is all fine. Password, you're going to need to set this whatever you want it to be. then go ahead and click Next. For right now, we don't need to create DNS delegation. We'll leave that as blank for now. And the net BIOS domain name, that's fine. Click Next. This is all fine as well. Next. Then we're going to go ahead and click Install. Okay, so after this is done installing, you'll be signed out and it will restart your virtual machine, and then your server will be now your new domain controller. So the last thing I want to show you guys how to do is how to delete the virtual machine that we created. So we're going to go ahead and click on our virtual machine that we created. Then you're going to click on Actions. You're going to want to click on Instance Date and then Terminate Instance. And then go ahead and click Terminate. So that is how you terminate a virtual machine. It does take a while before it disappears off your account. So to recap what we covered in this video, the first thing we did is we set up a root user account in AWS. This is our primary account that we can do anything with, that has all of our permissions enabled. The next thing we did was set up multi-factor authentication. Again, this is good. This is the best security practice when it comes to creating an account. Next, we created a billing alarm. This was AWS is a pay-as-you-go system, so we didn't want to go over our free tier eligibility. So by creating a billing alarm, we get alerted whenever we do exceed our amount. The next thing we did is create a non-root user account. This account is used for everyday use. It is intended just for everyday tasks. We don't want to be running around with our root account all the time, again, because that does have all of our permissions enabled. Nextly, we created a VPC, which is a virtual private cloud, basically just our network in the cloud. We were able to configure a public subnet that was able to talk out to the internet through our internet gateway. Then we were able to create a private subnet that we can house our private resources that we don't want to be able to talk out to the cloud, or the internet, Finally, we launched an Ac2 instance, or a virtual machine in the cloud. We were able to load Server 2019 in that virtual machine, and then finally we promoted that server to be our domain controller. Thank you for watching.